The story of King Edward VIII and his abdication is one of the controversial chapters in the history of the British monarchy. Edward VIII, born on June 23, 1894, with the full name Edward Albert Christian George Andrew Patrick David, was the eldest son of King George V and Queen Mary. Indeed, Edward was the grandson of Queen Victoria and the heir to the Windsor lineage. He was born in England and grew up in a royal environment filled with tradition and responsibilities. As the eldest son, he was expected to be the heir to the throne. Edward received a meticulous education and was taught by private tutors. Despite his intelligence and interests in history, art, and literature, he was said to lack focus in formal education. Additionally, he showed great interest in sports and adventures. As he grew older, Edward became known for his controversial personality. He often violated the expected norms of a royal family member. For instance, he frequently engaged in parties and associated with women deemed inappropriate by the royal circle. His free-spirited lifestyle and his tendency to socialize with people from various walks of life put him at odds with conventional expectations as a future heir to the throne. In the early 1930s, King Edward VIII, then known as the Prince of Wales, met Wallis Simpson, an American woman who later became a center of attention and great controversy in the royal life. Their first meeting occurred at a party hosted by Lady Thelma Furness, a close friend of Wallis. The party took place at Belvoir Castle, a noble residence in Leicestershire, England. At the time, Edward was traveling in England and coincidentally encountered Wallis at the event. Wallis was an American woman who had moved to England after her marriage to her husband, Ernest Simpson. Although Wallis's marriage was not happy, they were still together. When Edward and Wallis met, they found several shared interests, particularly in entertainment and lifestyle. Both were involved in social life and enjoyed attending parties and luxurious events. These commonalities likely played a role in deepening their connection. Despite differences in their backgrounds and nationalities, they quickly developed a close relationship. Their relationship became increasingly intense as time went on. They spent a lot of time together and participated in social activities. Their closeness led to speculation and media attention, which began to focus on the impact on the royal family and British society. One of the most controversial aspects of their relationship was Wallis's marital status. Before meeting Edward, Wallis had been divorced twice and was in the process of her third divorce. At the time, the Church of England and society held conservative views on divorce and remarriage. As Edward ascended the throne after his father's death in January 1936, his relationship with Wallis became a serious issue. Church rules and monarchy norms at that time considered marrying someone who had been divorced a violation of ethics and morals. And people were becoming more concerned about Edward and Wallis's relationship, as it seemed to be heading in a serious direction. The British government and the church grew increasingly concerned about the possibility of Edward marrying Wallis. They realized that such a marriage could trigger a constitutional and religious crisis. This placed them in a difficult situation, allowing Edward to marry Wallis and facing the consequences or preventing the marriage by asking Edward to abdicate the throne. While there were some members of the royal family who supported Edward and Wallis, the majority of the royal family and other British nobles opposed the marriage. They saw such a marriage as a threat to the dignity of the monarchy and its stability. Faced with pressure from various sides, Edward VIII eventually realized that marrying Wallis Simpson would be difficult to accept for British society, the church, and the government. He also realized that his role as king would be obstructed by this controversy. And finally, on December 10, 1936, Edward VIII delivered a radio address in which he announced his abdication from the throne. He explained that he couldn't fulfill his duties as king without Wallis's support, and he chose to live with the woman he loved rather than fulfill his royal duties. Edward VIII's abdication triggered a constitutional crisis and presented an unprecedented situation. Edward's younger brother, Albert, who later took the name King George VI, became the successor to the throne. George VI's leadership during the World War II period, including his significant role in leading Britain against Nazi Germany, became a pivotal moment in British history. Edward VIII's abdication was an event that shook the British monarchy and brought about significant changes in the line of succession. His decision to prioritize his personal love over royal responsibilities offers a unique perspective on the roles and pressures faced by royal family members.